I want to focus on some things to make your board meetings more effective and some of the requirements. So I'm going to touch on all of those things. So, this might go a little long, but just know that you can go and look at more specific things about board meetings on our video resource library if you haven't checked that out yet at sharpenmanagement.com. So the first thing to just remember about board meetings is that they need to be open. They need to be open meetings. And this is by state statute. So if you're under MCIOA, the Minnesota Common Interest Ownership Act, your meetings need to be open for your homeowners to attend and observe. Doesn't mean they're a part of the meeting and they participate in the meeting. It just means that it has to be open, that they can come if they want. So here's what state statute says, is that they can come. And you can only close a meeting for 3 reasons, and we get more specific in that, later on tonight. But you can only close a meeting when it's about a staff or personnel issue, if there's any current litigation or current criminal activity, or if there's any pending or potential litigation. Those are the only reasons you can close a board meeting that has to be open to your members. So just remember that first and foremost. The next part, just to understand about board meetings, is that you have to give some sort of a notice by state statute if you're under MCIOA again. And even if you're not under MCIOA, these things I'm referencing about them being open and the notice requirements, they're still good practice for you to follow as an association. But assuming you're under MCIOA, if you're not, you should still do it anyway, is that you need to give some sort of a notice of the board meeting. But what state statute says, and you need to look at what your documents say, because your documents it's like maybe 20% maybe will actually dictate a notice requirement. But most of the time it's just a vague, you have to give some sort of a notice. So the notice of a meeting can be fulfilled in a few ways. At your current meeting, at the end of it, you can say the next meeting of the board shall be X date and time and place, and then you put it in the minutes. Now you accomplish that. I mean, it could be that simple to fulfill your notice requirements, just announcing it at the end of your previous board meeting. Another good way to give notice of a board meeting is come up with your calendar for the year and publish it in the minutes. Even in the January's minutes, we've decided that these 6 months and these 6 dates and time and place will be our 2023 board meeting schedule, and put that in the January's minutes, and you fulfill the requirement for notice for all your other meetings. So like I said, it's very vague. It doesn't mean that you can't. Some associations like to do an email blast or post the agenda, whatever. I mean, it just depends on how transparent and inviting, I don't know if that's the word I want to use, to your membership to let them know when the meetings are. But you do need to give them some sort of notice. But what that notice is pretty vague, what that looks like. The best way to keep your board meetings effective is to have an agenda and stick to it, and have a meeting facilitator that's going to help you stick to it. So this is a standard agenda for a board meeting that I like to use. There's a lot of variances. I mean, every association board has a different idea of what the agenda should look like. But this is what I like to use. You call the meeting to order, you verify that you had the quorum of board members to actually have it be a meeting. You approve the minutes from the previous meeting. You give a treasurer's report that just talks about how much money we have in our checking and our reserves, and a report of here's how we're performing, the income statement, here's how much money we took in year to date and the expenses that went out year to date. So here's how we're performing net surplus or deficiency. That should be your treasurer's report. It shouldn't be any more complicated than that. Then your manager's typically going to give a report of here's the activities since our last meeting that's happened throughout the association. Committee reports, if you have committees, have them send you the report minutes. Like have the committee send their minutes or give a report. I would advise not doing committee reports orally at a board meeting, because it can eat up time, right? Any old business. So old business is anything that was tabled. I mean, if you're doing it right to Robert's Rules of Orders, if you had something to decide on and make a decision on at your previous board meeting and you didn't, you went through the process of tabling it until the next meeting. So if there's anything held over, that's what old business is. And then majority should be your new business, right? Whatever you have to vote and decide on. And a board meeting should be for making decisions. Don't list 15 things that we should discuss. No, you need to take action. The discussion is what makes an hour-long effective board meeting become a 3-hour ordeal, right? And then you adjourn the meeting. And then I've got on here open forum. I've got 2 asterisks on here for you guys to look at. The open forum part. We've got a lot of great videos at sharpermanagement.com, and I'm going to cover later on tonight how you can navigate the open forum piece. Now remember, your meetings are supposed to be open to the members, but that doesn't mean that they get to participate. They can observe. But a lot of associations want to carve out some time for the owners to be able to ask questions or bring their concerns, which is a good practice. But if you do it, have it before the meeting starts or after the meeting is adjourned, because what they're bringing to you is not an official action item of the board. So you don't want that to be on the agenda. You don't want it to become an accountability issue of whatever was brought you need to act on. No, if you want to do that as a part of your agenda before the meeting or after the meeting, and there's pros and cons to both, like I said, we'll talk about that, or check out, there's a great video that we've got speaking to an experienced manager about the pros and cons to both of those things. And then the next thing I want to say, the next asterisk that you see on there is the ratification of items. We all know that the reality is a lot of decisions are made outside of the board meeting, and that's okay. State statute and your own governing documents, I can almost assure you, say that action can be taken outside of a meeting so long as it's unanimous. So look, I know a lot of things happen via email, right? We need to decide on something quick, and here's a proposal. So if you do that, the whole board needs to vote unanimously that, yes, I approve that contract. All 5 people said, yes, okay, that contract is approved. So a good practice is, because that happens. A majority of our business probably happens in that way, right? But a good practice for you is at the board meeting and on the agenda, you should ratify any decisions made in between board meetings. Just because then you can capture it in the minutes. It's just, it's just an official way to capture decisions made. So some more things to talk about to help you have successful board meetings. The first and foremost is control the environment. Control the environment. Some boards like to meet in people's houses. I get it, it's comfortable. Some people think that the board meeting is a free-for-all and everybody gets to participate. Set an expectation for what this environment is, and what this environment is the board meeting is a business meeting. It's a business meeting of the elected board. That's why they're elected. The next thing I'll say, and I'm going to say this on behalf of managers, prepare, please. Your manager works really hard to put together a board pack of the information that you're going to vote on, the financials, the proposals, the management report. A lot of time is spent putting that together and is sent to you prior to the meeting. So review it so that when you get to the meeting, you can act on it. Have constructive participation, obviously. There's nothing more disheartening to the membership, honestly. Not even just the manager or even your fellow board members, even to the membership that's there, there's nothing more disheartening than seeing a dysfunctional board that's destructive in just one board member's behavior, or the board not being able to move forward on resolutions. So just have a constructive environment amongst your board members. And that can happen with an effective facilitator. I think that might be one of the biggest keys to successful board meetings. Usually that's the president, right? Sometimes that's the manager. It all depends, but someone needs to be the leader. Someone needs to facilitate. And the key to that is just keeping you on track with your agenda. Know when the debate is over and the discussion is over, and you move it to a vote. Duration and frequency. I've got a slide on that I want to show you guys. I'm always blown away that I've managed 20-unit condo buildings that meet monthly, that last 2 hours, and they have a $150,000 operating budget. But then I can manage a townhome association that has 300 units, that the board meets quarterly, and they have a $750,000 budget, and their meetings last an hour. Why is that? There's a lot of reasons why, but frequency is the key. And I know this might sound like a manager trying to get out of board meetings, but I promise you, I've seen it. Fewer meetings forces focus. If you take one thing away tonight, think of those four F's. Fewer meetings forces focus. Because look, if you know that you're not going to meet again for 3 months, it encourages you to bring something to resolution. It gets really easy to say, I need a little more time to think about it, so let's table that landscape project proposal for next month. It gets so easy when the meetings are too frequent. Fewer meetings forces focus. And the next piece to that is the duration of your meeting. Anything over 60 to 90 minutes, all of a sudden you're not very effective. And look, you can look, study after study will give you different ideas on this, but I found this one that I like, that after 15 minutes, you only have 90% of the attention span of your people. After 45, you're down to almost a little more than half. 65% of the attention is there. Once you get past that hour mark, you've lost most of the attention. You're down to 45% of the people are paying attention before they're reconciling their checkbook in their head. And if you're over an hour, once you get to over an hour, well, I guess it doesn't matter anymore, does it? Because the majority of people you already lost at 60 minutes. I'm sure that stat just continues to go down, right? So I would actually love to know what it is at the 240-minute mark, where it's probably like 2%, right? So just think about that an hour, guys. Really, that's ideal, an hour. 60 minutes, maybe 90. I know that's pretty common, but just know that the statistics are there, that the longer you go, the more you lose attention. So that should encourage you to have more focused meetings and get through what you need to get through. So I think that's really all I have to say about board meetings. There's so much more that you can do to have effective board meetings, but we talked about some of the notice requirements. We talked about those open meeting requirements. We talked about the need for a strong facilitator, stick to the agenda, control that open forum piece, look at your environment, control the dynamic, and then just be cautious and be effective about how often and how long your meetings are going. So set a new tone for your board meetings if you need to. Get into good habits, and hopefully some of these tips that we talked about can help you do just that.